Hi, friends. Welcome. If you guys can believe it, it is week 14. Wow, we are almost there. We are 2 weeks away from really being done, which is nuts. So 2.5 weeks and you guys are officially done. Um, I wanted to give you just a little bit of sorry, wrong screen. I wanted to give you a little bit of a look about what is going on next week and the week after, kind of as we're entering in. That's all today is. Today's about prep. So we're going to talk about what to expect on Friday from me, kind of what you have, what you have to be, make sure everything is done. And then we're going to talk about really, we're going to go through. I don't normally do this, but I really like you guys, so I'm going to do it. We're going to go through the actual rubric that I'm going to use for the exam and then go into our project that we built and show you sort of right where those are associated so that way you guys have an understanding of this is what we're supposed to be doing. But before we do that, we have this week where you've got really just one core assignment. Reminder, you still have a discussion post. So go make sure you do that. And you have one core assignment called recipes. Now, recipes is the best sort of belt prep you can do. If you can do recipes, you will be in a very, very good position to pass the belt exam. So what I normally say is, hey, don't take the belt exam until you have finished recipes, because A, it's a core assignment, so you have to do it anyway. And B, it is really gives you a lot of kind of practice for this. And again, a lot of confidence. Once you do get it figured out, you can say, oh, I can do this. Recipes has a register and login, which is what we've already built. So you guys should know how to do that. Takes it to a dashboard page where you can add a recipe. It's associated by who posted it. So there is that join there, right, where we're getting that first name, and then you can edit. This is very, very, very close to what the exam is going to look like. Obviously, it's going to be different, but I mean, really, if you can do this, you can do the exam. The underlying foundation of you have a user, you have some sort of subject or topic. In this case, it's a recipe. You can create both. That's part of it. There's an association. That's part of it. And you can read some data, edit some data, delete it, then you're good. So I would say this week, really, really, really focus on doing recipes, make sure everything is good there. So here's how it's going to work. On Friday, what I will do is for Friday is when the exam technically opens. Now, what that means is that any time between this Friday, the 12th, and Wednesday, the 24th, you can submit an exam. Now, what I mean by submit is you still only have the belt exam is still 24 hours. So I'm going to send you a code on Friday. I'm going to say, hey, here's your belt exam code. Here's this long email. I'm going to submit, or I'm going to give you this. Once you go to the platform and you'll go to take exams right here, and you're going to enter this code. Now, wait to enter the code until you're actually ready to take the exam, because once you put the code and you say unlock, it is going to start your 24-hour timer. Now that timer can start anytime between Friday the 12th and Wednesday the 24th, where there's a little bit of caveat on Wednesday, but you can do it on any day, but just wait until you're ready. So, you don't have to start it Friday. If you want to start it Saturday or Sunday, you totally can. It'll be open and that code will be good until Wednesday. Now, why did I say that there was a little bit of a caveat? With the belt exam, you get up to 3 chances at the exam. So let's say you take it this first weekend, which I would really encourage you to do. And I grade it on Monday and I see, I grade it and I say, okay, great, I've graded it. Either you pass good or, hey, this is a retake. You will then, maybe you don't pass the first time, which is very normal, very okay. I will give you a new exam code. And then you'll again have another 24 hours and that code will be good all the way up to the 24th. Now, if you wait I say up to 3 chances. And I didn't forget about the 24-hour thing, because if you wait until Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. is the last chance you will get to start an exam and get all 24 hours. You are welcome to start an exam on Wednesday itself. It will still just be due by 11:59 p.m. PST. So if you decide to wait till 10 p.m., then you have 1 hour and 59 minutes. This is always where students get confused. If you wait until Wednesday, you no longer get 24 hours. You get whatever time is remaining between when you started it and 11:59. It must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday. Secondly, I say up to 3 chances, because if you wait until Wednesday or Tuesday even to do your first exam, you don't get 2 more. All of your chances have to be used by Wednesday. So if you don't use them, you don't use them. If you wait until Wednesday to try your first exam and you don't turn it in until, 9 p.m., you don't get 2 more chances and you don't get another 24 hours. It's due by midnight. So I always tell students, at least try to get one done by like a week out. So by next Wednesday, the 17th, at least try to get one exam committed and done, because that way I will have it graded by this weekend and I can give you a new code. And then, take your second one this weekend. And then worst case scenario, let's say Monday, I see it and I go, hey, you didn't pass, you're close. Here's a third attempt. Then you have Monday and Tuesday to take that attempt. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that?
No, just pretty much you're telling us don't waste the time that we have.
Yeah. Well,
Got it.
and I even had a student last stack who thought they messaged me at 11:57 p.m. on Tuesday requesting a code. And they thought because they requested it within 24 hours of the actual exam that they should get the 24 hours. And it's like, nope, I've been clear. It is due by 11:59 p.m. no matter what. So if you requested at 11:57 p.m. on Tuesday night, I'm not going to be up and I'm not going to give that to you, nor is a TA working. And I'm not going to give it to you until the beginning of the workday on Wednesday. So then you're foregoing that. Now, why did I say request? There is criteria on what makes you qualified for an exam. Really, the only criteria that we have is you have to have 90% of your core assignments completed. So if you've been keeping up with your core assignments, if you're in good standing, that's great. And on Friday, what I'll do is I'll go through your assignments and say, okay, Estrella and Jeffrey and Kevin, all 3 of you guys have done all of your assignments, or it's just one assignment you're missing. If you're missing just one assignment, then you get a code. If you don't, then if you're missing more than one assignment, then you don't get a code on Friday. And you have to, you have to request a code from me and say, hey, I've done it. Because I'm not going to check every single day. I'll check Friday. And then I will check Monday, see if you've done anything and give you a code. But if not, it's kind of up to you to then request the code. Now, TAs are able to give you codes as well. And so you can go to TA, let's say on Friday, you're not quite there. Let's say you're not quite there. So you didn't get it, or you got an email from me saying, hey, don't quite, you don't have 90%. I see that you haven't done X, Y, and Z assignment, get 2 out of 3 or whatever. Let's say you do that on Friday night and then Saturday you're ready for your exam. You can request that from a TA. They can get you a code. They're going to do the same thing though. They're going to go in and check and make sure you have 90%. Because that's kind of in my notes. They're going to check, make sure you have 90%. If you do, they're going to send you an exam code and then you can start it there. So yes, don't wait. You must have 90%. Some instructors require you to turn in recipes prior. You guys are adults, so I'm not going to require that. But I will say that if you haven't done recipes yet, it would be better time spent on the weekend, fully completing recipes, trying to not use the video as much as possible. So that way you have an understanding, asking questions, going to TAs if you need help. and then the following week attempting the exam. Any question on kind of what to expect these next couple weeks?
So it's probably just really a good idea to take our first exam during week 15. So then if we don't pass and we need some feedback as to like, what did I do wrong? And,
Mhm.
so that just study what we didn't get right. Or say if we did pass, we got like 8 out of 10, but we want to take it again for a better score, or maybe we want to go from like a yellow belt to or a orange belt to a red belt, or maybe a
Mhm.
black belt, we could
Mhm.
just study from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say your target should be having at least your first exam submitted by Wednesday the 17th. Because that gives you a week, and I'll, on Thursday I can send you out a code, or I can grade them because there's only 3 of you or 4 of you. I can grade those pretty quickly. When I have like 40 of them, then then it might be a 48-hour turnaround, but with you guys, it's pretty quick. Just shoot me an email. I'll usually check, see if you've done it or if it's even opened, but you could also just shoot me an email, say, hey, I submitted the exam. Then that way I know in the morning, cool, let me go grade that real fast. But yeah, I would absolutely say to do that. And you're exactly right, Kevin. There's 3 belt types you can do, and this is different than Web Fundamentals. You have 24 hours to complete it. And again, it looks something very similar to recipes. So you'll put it in, we're going to give you a wireframe, and then we'll give you like an actual build out of what you have to do. If you do it within 24 hours, you do everything that's required, you do it within 24 hours, then you will get an orange belt, which just means, hey, you passed it, great job. Now, if you do the same thing, so you do everything that's required and same requirements as an orange belt, but you do it within 5 hours instead of you do it within 5 hours instead of 24 hours, then you get what we call a red belt. That's the only difference. It's the same criteria, the same requirements. It's just one's done within 5 hours. If you do it in 5 hours and 30 minutes, anything above 5 hours is an orange belt. So 5 hours and 3 minutes, that's an orange belt. And that's because in the system, it tracks your time. And so it sees, okay, this is 5 hours, 5 hours and 1 minute, it automatically makes an orange belt. It's not something I do. That's a red belt within 5 hours. Now, if you do all of the required materials for the orange and the red, same. And there's going to be some extra materials. Think of those like sensei bonuses that are within your assignments, or the ninja bonuses, those sort of things. If you do all of that, all of the required stuff, plus some extras, and within 5 minutes or 5 hours, not 5 minutes, 5 hours, then you get what we call a black belt. And that's the highest belt you can get. Now, you are welcome to, let's say you get an orange belt or a red belt, you want to try for a black belt, you're welcome to do that. Okay, I'm happy to grade that. That said, it doesn't matter. Like if I'm just being super transparent, no, you can put that like, oh, achieved a black belt. Companies don't really know what that means. It's a great talking point, but they don't know, companies, Microsoft doesn't know our belt system, our grading system, for them to be like, whoa, black belt versus an orange belt. So if your life is busy and you pass and you're like, it's not really worth it for me to add the added stress, that's okay. I totally get that. Cool. Any other questions on that?
Yes, one really quick question. So,
Yeah.
if we are able to complete recipes and we get the program up and running and it works just the way the rubric has said it's supposed to work, we should be good for the exam.
Yeah, this has everything that you need in order for there to be the exam. Now it'll be different, right? Like we might have a date, we might not. We might have other things, but the underlying materials, can you view stuff? Can you edit stuff? Can you delete stuff? Can you create stuff? Is there a relationship? If you can do all of that, which recipes does, in order for it to, all of this to work, then yes, you should be a-okay.
Oh, and I noticed those radio buttons at the bottom of the screen.
Mhm.
Um, have we done a a CRUD application with radio buttons? I don't think we have.
I'm not sure. It's just a different input type, right? And so it's still handling in the same way. We've done many different inputs.
Right, right,
Yeah. And that's it, right? Where you guys have, I think you've done radio buttons in web fundamentals.
right.
When you dealt with forms. And so you're just kind of taking all this knowledge together. So we haven't necessarily, and we don't necessarily do everything on the exam. I mean, most stuff, but like maybe we haven't done a radio button, but you have, right? And that's just part of like, okay, cool. I see that there's a radio button. Maybe we haven't used that, but I know that's an input type. So let me go see how I can do that. How I can, it's not that much different, but what do I need to do here? So that's kind of the part of the exam portion. But if you can do recipes, you should be a-okay.
Thank you for the
Yeah, you're
boost.
welcome. Yeah. The main thing I would say is don't forget in password when you're creating your ERD, up that to 255 because we're hashing. Yeah. So please make sure you guys do that. Okay. Today's class might be a little bit shorter, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is I'm going to walk through really what I'm going to be using. So, this is what I will use. I'm going to create one. I'm not going to click on it because it says other students' grades, but basically I'm going to copy this into a new page, and then I'm going to have your name, and I'm going to go through line by line, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to grade and say, have you done everything here? Actually, it's this one. Sorry. Have you done everything here? This is what I will use. So I'll put like your name, and then what exam you did, et cetera, et cetera. But these are the things, let me make this a little bit bigger. These are the things that I'm going to grade you on, and things that you're going to have to do for the exam. And this is what's going to be, make you able to pass. Now the exam is out of 10. And all you need is an 8 or above. So as long as you get an 8 or above, then you're fine. You will pass. Now, if you are a red belt or a black belt, I believe it's a 9.5 or above. But if you're doing black belt stuff, then you should get all the base stuff. There are some just base required stuff. So if you don't do this, you automatically fail. And so like working examples of functions, control structures. So that's control structures would be like a conditional statement, basic operators, data types, loops, right? Are you writing it in Python? Basically this is just a pass fail. Are you writing this in Python? Cool. Now the next one is, are you implementing an OOP class, classes as models to represent data? Now I've got this pulled up. So I thought we could just kind of go through here. I'm going to look and say, do you have these set up as models? If you had it set up as something different, do you have these classes? Do you have a user class? Do you have a whatever class of whatever the exam is? Do you have this set up as normal? And there is different sort of levels to this. So like no extraneous calls, parsing, clean class data or clean class implementation, everything present, may contain non-optimal code, class implementation broken or bad logic, missing structures. What I'm looking for here is if in your code, you've got a bunch of let's say you had a bunch of here's get all games, get one game, you have all this. And let's say you just had a bunch of different things that you're not actually using, or maybe they're doing the same thing and you just have them as different, right? Is there extra code in here? Are there extra methods that you obviously kind of, you watched a video or you did something and we're not really doing that. I think we had get one by email or get user with games. If you have something sort of extra that you're not actually using, that's where I'm going to give you some points off, right? Where if you've may contain non-optimal code / depends on how much code. And this is a scale, right? To where, if you have bad logic or bad data, but it's one little thing is broken, then I might still say it's proficient. You know, so it's kind of up to my interpretation. And you're always welcome to, and I'll send you, especially if you fail, I'll send you, you know, here's everything, here's how I graded it, here's why. But for example, if you're saying like, hey, you don't have a save or delete function or method, right? Or you're not using object-oriented programming, then I'm going to say that you're struggling. And so that's going to associate different numbers. And so if I say struggling, you don't get any points. Almost there is 0.25 points. Proficiency is 0.6 and mastery is 0.75, right? So, oops. Ah. Cool. Associates classes to effectively represent relationships in databases. So any one-to-many, multiple, any of those implemented in classes. What this is looking at is, do you have something like this, where we are dealing with a join, a one-to-many join, where we're taking and we're doing the class instance of my different tables, right? Or my different classes. If you're just grabbing the data and you're just reading it, I'm going to count points off. So as long as you are doing that, as long as you are associating your classes and you're saying, okay, cool, I'm doing a join on each side and I'm kind of grabbing that information, then you're good to go. ERD, if you don't submit an ERD, it's an automatic fail. Obviously, Jeffrey, you've got a little bit different because you're a Mac person, so we've already talked about that. But if you just don't do that or don't design databases, you don't have a database, then unfortunately you fail, right?
Good question, Will.
Yeah.
So with mine, should I like send you a screenshot via email?
Yep, that's great. Just send me a
Okay.
screenshot and I'll go in and make your table. You could say, you know, here's my table, here's my attributes, here's everything I want to add. If you've already got it built out, just take a screenshot and I'll go build that for you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yep. So if you set up a red belt, which is a one-to-many relationship, which is what we've done, then you get proficient. Master sets up advanced ERD. This is a many-to-many relationship. This is a advanced thing. This is part of the belt exam or the black belt. You don't need to do that. And it's first worth 0.1. And that's because anything again above the most you can get on a red belt is 9.49 or 9.5. Anything above that is black belt. So that's why, you know, you're not losing points. You just aren't doing the extra to get a black belt. Cool. Perform basic queries against the database, including manipulating tables, one-to-many relationships. Again, that's just these queries right here. Are we actually performing these and manipulating data? Do we have a one-to-many? So i.e. a join. Do you have that, right? Again, if you don't have that, if you don't do queries or they're all broken, that's something that I'm going to look at and I'm going to say, okay, great. Like no joins, uses weird loops or weird code, still has right data. Yeah. So making sure that you're just using your queries, again, things that we've done, things that we've constantly do. Now I will say, if you have one error, you know, if you say, okay, shoot, I called it get user with games, but in my actual controller, I said get user with game, and there's an error and you miss an S. That's not that big of a deal to me. I can go in and fix it. You know, as I mess around, I usually sort of try to problem solve and say, okay, where's your bug? Okay. And if it's an S, I will maybe somewhere take off just a couple points. That said, though, if you're like on the line, if you're at like an 8.05 and you missed an S, and everything else works fine, or, you know, you've lost points to other places, but that's the thing that's going to make you fail, I'm not going to fail you. You know, I'll let you know, like, hey, you missed an S, whatever. But I also, again, I said that this is a scale. If you have a perfect exam and you miss an S, I'm probably going to take like 0.1 points off, right? Just be like, yeah, you missed it. Attention to detail. You have to test it. If that's going to be the thing that's going to make you fail, I'm not going to do that. If that makes sense. So if I think as a whole, this exam is good, you just have a couple key things. If they're key things enough to where I'm like, you really don't understand this material, then yes, it's going to be a retake. But if it's like, nope, you understand, you just had some weird typos or, something happened, then that's fine. I would say though, the main thing, the biggest thing I can tell you guys is just test your code. I can't tell you how many students submit exams and they've never even run them or if they've never tested them. And it's super apparent because the minute I spin up their server, it doesn't work. So I'm like, you know that you didn't touch your code because I can't even go to the home screen. So yeah, make sure you're testing your code, make sure it works, click through it, see, okay, they're going to want me to create this. Okay, cool. They're going to want me to edit this. Okay, can I edit? Go through that again, try to do it all, do exactly what I'm going to do. Cool. Creates routes to process HTTP requests and serve to client. That is just our controller, right? Do we have this controller where we create these routes? Are we building? And I would say I encourage building upon routes. So like, okay, /user/create, user/login, user/logout, user/dashboard, right? Build on that, the RESTful routing that we've talked about. But again, there's some space. Again, this is really where I see a lot of students get some errors. Again, testing this code is not going to change or is going to show you these, but where they will do something like that. Users log out, and they, their button is user log out or something like that. Or in their button, it says users log out, but in the controller, it says user log out. That's where that HTTP method thing is gonna break. So as long as you just have minor, 2 minor ones, again, you miss an S, whatever, then that's an issue. Now, if you do like a 404, not found, that can be up to more of a major issue. Depends. Again, I'll use my interpretation to see if you just missed an S or something, or if you just don't even have anything close, then it's like, okay. Right. If you just put something like /kitten, then it's like, well, that doesn't even exist. So that's an error. Okay. Uses templating to render data dynamically before serving to the client. That would be basically here is when in my controller, when I am returning or rendering things like this. Am I passing it in dynamically? Anytime it goes to user dashboard, it gets all my users. So if I create something and then I immediately go to user dashboard, is it going to get my information? One other thing too, is that if you are editing, if you pre-populate your fields, then that's great. That's a mastery thing. So pre-populating, remember we're sending it to the information and then inside our input, we put value equals. And then, if we passed in user, let's say we passed in, get one user with an ID or something like that, get user with games or whatever. And then we have it as user, and then the value, we just say user.firstname. And then that input, if it's editing, that input field will have that information. Manipulate session to access user data across requests. That is us just grabbing via session and putting our user ID in there. Are you doing that? Another thing you can check is, let's say for the dashboard, it's a prevention, and I would encourage you can do this. You could say, if user ID not in session, redirect to user. This is a great line right here. And I would actually encourage this. This is part of the exam, so make sure you do this. All this is basically saying is, hey, go check in session. If I don't have a key called user ID, which we know that key is created when somebody either logs in or when somebody creates a profile. So we know that somebody is in our, their information has been submitted. If that's not the case, if somebody just, goes to localhost 5000 user/dashboard, we don't want them to be able to see that, right? They need to log in or register. And so this is a great tool if user ID or whatever your session key name is not in session, then we redirect. Cool. Secures hash, or so this is a guarantee. If you don't use bcrypt, then you're going to unfortunately fail. This is a automatic fail thing. Now, one thing again, please make sure you do not use bcrypt, but instead you use flask-bcrypt. Constantly students will just put bcrypt, and that doesn't work, right? So it doesn't, so that's an automatic fail. So do not put bcrypt, do flask-bcrypt. That can be found in our validations here. When you go to bcrypt, this is what you need to install. Do not say pipe env or pip env install bcrypt. You have to do this one in order for it to work. Again, test your code, look into your database and say, oh, I just created a user and I am using bcrypt. Did it hash my password? If it didn't, okay, then there's another issue, right? Cool. Creates functional registration feature. This is kind of a yes or no. Can I register? So create a user. Implements functional login feature and authenticates user through application as appropriate to features. So this is where the login check on dashboard page, non-existing user test works. So what this means is exactly what I just showed you. Do you have something like this? Are they logged in / did they just create a user or not? So as long as you have that, so login check on all pages, then we're good to go. If you have no dashboard check or logout not working, then you can just get an almost. But can you log in, and are we checking to see if people are logged in before they go to other pages? And then lastly, data validations. So MVP validations all working. This is our validations that we created here. MVP, I can just kind of tell you, you will need to use regex. So just kind of honestly, just take this. This is what we've done. This is what we've worked through. And feel free to kind of just emulate this. Now, again, be prepared if I were to say, hey, you need to have age and the users must be above the age of 13, for example. Here, you'd want to make sure you have self.age. And then here you would say, hey, if age is less than 13, then, there's an error, you must be 13 or older, whatever. So make sure that, if you're coming in with a built login and registration, which you're allowed to do, make sure you're just aware of all the places you need to change if there is an extra attribute that you need to have for your user. But this should be it. It's going to say like 2 or 3 for first name, last name, password should be 8. And then regex for email should be it. Now there might be some extra validations. So maybe there's like a password regex or there's a, something of that nature. That might be the mastery portion there. Modularized server code and MVC. That is, do you have everything in one server file, or did you create an app that has a config, controllers, models, and templates? Did you modularize it? So if you did that, it's kind of just like a yes or no. Cool. Now, if you have like model logic in the controller, or if you just have like, if you're querying from the controller, that's where the issue comes, right? We don't want to do that. We want to have all of our querying and all of our model logic in our model, right? Any of these methods, we want them here. And then lastly, did you build a working CRUD application? Can I create, read, update, and delete information? Can I create a user? Can I, and it might not, you might not have like do you need to edit user? It's whatever's in the wireframe. More so it's like, can I create a user? Yes. And then can I create some object, or can I create something? And that's, in this example would be like, can I create a recipe? Can I create a recipe? Can I update a recipe? Can I delete a recipe? can I do CRUD on some sort of entity here? I don't think we make you do CRUD on a user, but can I do CRUD on, in this case, a recipe or a video game? Can I edit a video game, update, delete a video game? So can I do that? If you can do all of that, then you will pass the exam A-okay. And then obviously it checks, if you're within 5 hours, that automatically just tells us, okay, red belt or black belt or orange belt. So that is everything you need for the exam. We went through, kind of showed you everything I'm looking at. So there should be zero surprises. Are there any questions you guys have for me? About the exam, about next week? I will say one thing to note is this week is the last week of your core assignment. You don't have any more core assignments now. You still need 90% core assignments, 80% discussion questions by the 16th. You'd still have a discussion question every week. That's the way that we calculate attendance. So make sure you're doing those even up to Wednesday of week 16 is when your discussion question is due. So please know you have a limited time there. But there's no more core assignments. So what that means is next week, what I will actually do, I like to talk about APIs. APIs are application programming interfaces, and that's something that you will use a lot. That's utilizing, instead of everybody building things from scratch, which would be a pain in the rear, you can sort of think about like Yelp. If I go to Yelp here and I click on something, let's say restaurants. Restaurants in LA, sure. If we do that, you can see that Yelp pulls up some stuff, and then you see that there's a map here, right? And you can see that this is map data Google. So they are using Google Maps. This is an API, right? Yelp does not need to go rebuild a map for itself, right? They don't need to like invest all that technology. They're just using what Google's already created, and they pay Google, say, hey, I just want to use this. And Google goes, yep, I've already created it. I can use that. This is an API. This is what we call implementing an API. I like to teach on those because it's a really powerful thing in regards of, making your personal project look really nice, making, just understanding, like I use APIs all the time, constantly integrating things, constantly doing tools and utilizing other tools and CRM, stuff like that. So please make sure, not please make sure. So I like to talk about APIs more than other stuff, because really you're just going to utilize that. So that's what we're going to talk about. Some say intro to APIs. That's what we'll talk about next week. Again, no core assignment or anything like that. Just still, this is exam week. So doing that. Any questions, friends? That's actually all I have. I know that we're 19 minutes early, but that's all I have. I just want to give ample time if there's any questions or anything I can clarify.
Sounds
So
good.
I think there's one more stack after this, isn't there?
Yeah, so great question, Kevin. What to expect next? So as long as you get a passing belt exam, it's part 1. You have 80% discussion questions done, part 2, and part 3 of the 3-headed monsters. You have 90% core assignments. If you do all of those, you will go on to your projects and algorithm stack. And so what we will do is that'll be with me. So I'll be instructing it. And so we're going to jump into projects and algorithms. We're going to start looking at like actual, let me actually just pull it up. Data structures, algorithms, go back to kind of I'm pulling it up real fast. Yep. So it's going to look like this, where we're going to learn all about this, and then you'll be doing your personal project. So that's 4 weeks long. And so by the end of May, you will have this done. And once you complete this, you graduate from Coding Dojo. We'll have a graduation. You can invite, family, friends. It'll be a short graduation because there's only a couple of you. But we'll have a graduation, and then you'll get a certificate, a virtual certificate. We don't mail or anything, but you get a virtual certificate that says, yep, you completed this and all your stacks in your belts. That you can put on LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. But yeah, that'll be the 4 weeks after this. And so in the same way that, this other stack happened, let's say that all 3 of you guys are done, you've created it, and this is like the real thing. If you're tired, because I know that you guys have been going through a lot, if you get the belt exam done and you already have your core assignments complete, and your discussion questions complete, you kind of just, let's say this weekend, you take it, you pass it, you smash it, you kind of have 2 weeks just to kind of chill, right? There's no core assignments. Class is always optional. If you just need a break, if you're tired, then you got 2 weeks, and then we'll start the following week. So whatever the 29th of April, we'll get started. And then I will send out on this Friday, the 26th, I'll send a, hey, welcome to Projects and Algorithms email. And so we'll move forward there.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you for breaking down the what is it, the test evaluation?
The
And
rubric.
yeah, the rubric. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So we kind of have an idea what's expected, and like you said, no surprises. So
Yeah, for sure.
appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. Yeah, my pleasure. Anything else, friends? Okay. Well, I'll stop the recording here.